In this lesson, we're going to cover polynomial functions, what is the root and how to find it, and system of linear equations as well. So, since you're doing AIHL and using TI-84, you have to know what is polynomial functions. It's essentially a function that most of you have already seen in some sort of. So, as you can see, this is definitely a polynomial function that you have seen before. However, this is also a polynomial function that you might have not seen. So, how can you recognize a polynomial function? The formula for the polynomial function is down here. And the most important thing that you have to understand from here is that the n keeps getting smaller every time. So let's look at our first example. The first term, the x is to the power of 2. The second term, x is to the power of 1. And the last term, x is to the power of 0, also known as zero terms. So if we keep on looking for the other example, we see that in this case, x is to the power of 10, then it's 9, then it's 8, and then it's 7, and so on. I didn't have the time to fully write it out, but you know that it will end with x being with no power, and the other one being that there is no x, because x is to the power of 0. So polynomial functions you will see throughout your exams quite rarely. However, you still have to understand how they work. So therefore you have to always be ready to recognize them in your exams, seeing them that the power of x is slowly decreasing every time by 1. So in the exams you're also told to find the root of an equation, and if you don't know it already, you have to know that the root is equal to the answer and sometimes it can have multiple answers as well. Something very important to keep in mind for the IB is that if we look at here, you see that the first term that we have, I will just take this and paste it over here. So the n over here, what we have, the n is the amount of answers that a polynomial function always has. And we can take this as a great example that if we have something like y is equal to a to the power of x squared plus bx plus c, then most of you who have already done previous exams in middle school know that this has 2 answers, and you can really always get the answer of how many roots or how many answers it has based on the first term power. And as you can see here, the first term's power is 2, and that can be linked with the amount of answers as well. And in this case, if we have to the power of 10, then it means that it also has 10 answers. So, how to find the root in your paper 1 and paper 2 as well? It's actually very important. Most of you would go on to figure out the root by themselves. As you can see here, you can actually find the root with your middle school formulas. However, paper 1 and paper 2 are very fast-paced exams, meaning that you have to use your time wisely, and the calculator that you have, TI-84, has these apps and functions that automatically solve your problems. So for some reason my calculator doesn't work today, so I have to use some examples that I have gathered. So how to get the answers? So first of all, you have to go to your you have to go to this small button which is called apps. it should be located right here where I'm drawing. And this will lead you to your applications tab, and you have to go to the third one, which is called Polysmelt 2. It's this one. Then therefore you have to move on, and you have to go to Polynomial Root Finder. The first one shouldn't be that hard. And then, so the order is the most important one that you have. The more order essentially means, in this case, that how many x variables, how many terms do we have where x is included. So if we put 3, then we know that it starts, that the x is to the power of 3. If you put 6, then you know that the first term has to be to the power of x, to the power of 6. And then you will have your calculating table. And then now, based on your paper 1 or paper 2 exams, you have to input all your data here. And then you have to put graph, and then it will clearly bring out all 3 examples as well. And here we can test our theory again, that because it's to the power of 3 is the first term, you will have 3 answers as well. And yeah, and you always have to press graph to get from here to here as well. And that should be about it for this. So, system of linear equations is also something that most of you are very familiar with. However, most of you know that, as I have already talked before in my previous lectures as well, that AIHL exams are very fast-paced exams, meaning that you don't have time to actually solve these, and you have to resort to other methods to get these answers as well. So here again, your calculator has provided this very beautifully. So first of all, you have to go back to apps. You have to go to Polysmelt 2. And now, before you went to Polynomial Root Finder, as you know, it's also known as the answer finder, you have to now go to Simultaneous Equation Solver. It's the second one. So this is where it gets a bit more interesting. As you can see over here, the first one actually makes a lot of sense. The equations means that how many equations do you have. In this case, we can clearly see that you have 1 and 2. However, sometimes the equations amount in your exams may exceed up to 5, that you have like something like this, like y. And this is actually quite simple. You just have to understand how many equations do you have. Then unknowns. This is the amount of unknowns that you have. Mostly people who have done the middle school exams know that it's very usual to have x plus y. However, the more variables you have in your paper 1 question, it's possible that you also have z, and therefore it can also lead on to be more as well. Then auto and decibels, these are not meant to be looked, as they really don't show anything. You should keep them as they are. And the degree, it's always supposed to be in the degree, since you're calculating from the degree angle. Then, since you are seeing right here that both are 3, you can see that they clearly have 3 equations, 1, 2, 3. And they also have 3 variables, 1, 2, 3. And you have to press graph to get here. And you get this very beautiful table, you fill it in, and it will clearly give you your 3 answers out. Also, you have to know that in some cases, when you have done this before, you know that there is a possibility that the answer is like all answers, all answers are valid, and or sometimes there is no solution. And something very important in IB is that every exam question has an unique answer. What this means is, you might be wondering what this unique means over here. It's just basically a way of saying that it has to result to a real number, and it's not possible that you're doing a question and you have to write at the end that it has no answers, or the other choice, that all answers are right. I promise you, nothing like this is going to come, and every time you get an answer, it's most likely going to be a number that you can definitely understand that is right. And in this lecture, I didn't find any good exam questions. However, I believe that at the end of topic 1, I will do a revision lecture to make sure you understand everything, and then I will maybe include something from there as well. And thank you.